Welcome, everybody. It is June 12th for our Q Friday session, and we have so many things that we're piloting today. I say that almost every Friday, which is true almost every single Friday. We are always trying something new together. In this week, as we begin building up towards our World Congress on Planetary Health, June 19th and 20th, we have a lot of things rolling. We've been working on presentations all day. So, with that, Mina, we are all yours. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've missed seeing around virtual space.
Yeah,
We're excited to learn about mark making for relaxation with you. We are all ears. Thanks for joining us.
yeah. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here too. Um, Mark making is one of the things that I am really passionate about. It's not the same thing as representative drawing, which is one-to-one copying what you're seeing from real life, but it's rather sort of a go with the flow approach to art that um, doesn't have a whole lot of, should I say, what people think of as like skill level to enter into. Um, but performing mark making, if you're interested in drawing or painting or any other form of art, helps you to gain the fine motor control in order to um, go into more advanced fields and once you've trained your eye, if that's what you so desire. If you still want to just have a moment of Zen relaxation, sort of let your mind calm, wander, not necessarily worrying about what you're doing or planning on what you're doing, uh, then the creative mark making skill is one that's really, really good to develop. So I wanted to have mostly an open forum where we can just talk about things like if you have any creative hurdles, what could they possibly be? How could mark making help you sort of mantle over them? I have book recommendations if anybody prefers to read their philosophy or if they're interested in higher skill learning in drawing or painting. And yeah, if you have pen and paper, that would be very, very helpful. And it can be any kind of, I should say, it can be any kind of material. There are many, many different types of paper. I often use plain computer paper or even just lined notebook paper. You know, it's a lot akin to when you're listening on the phone and you feel like doodling, you need something to do with your hands in order to help you concentrate at the same time. I don't know. Have any of you really experienced that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. All right. So when we get down to it, there are a lot of different things. If you start with pens, you have your normal, what I'm going to be using is just my normal number two pencil. That's smack dab in the middle of pencil hardness. Uh, H is for harder, B is for bold. If you ever have one of those fancy sets,
I do not.
the bold ones make a lot darker marks, and the H ones make a lot lighter ones. So depending on if, yes, hello.
Hi, I have an HB. What does that mean?
That is our standard number
Okay, so
two,
that's the one
smack
that's
in the
right in the middle.
middle.
Got it.
Yes, yes.
How do the numbers
That
play in?
is
Mine says HB2 soft.
so soft HB2. So what what an HB pencil is what we call a number two pencil. These are basically what you're going to get from your out of the box packs almost every time. Uh, they're meant for writing, they're meant for test taking. All if you take the ACT, they and you fill in the little bubbles with your pencil, those are always going to be a number two pencil. So you have that baseline to go off of. So when you have the numbers, let's see here. This one is a 3H. That means that it's on the harder scale. Uh, if your HB pencil, let's see if my camera will pick it up, looks like that, then your 3H pencil, which is 3 steps towards the harder side of the spectrum, will look like that. Whoop, with the same amount of pressure.
Mm.
Mm. And if you go for B for bold, let's see here. I have the darkest kind of pencil you can get, which is a 9B or an ebony. And with the same amount of pressure, it will look like this. Yep.
Ah.
Mhm. So pencil hardness matters a little bit depending on um how you naturally press down on your pencils. I have a really heavy hand, honestly, so that means that I would probably benefit from using a harder pencil lead in the H spectrum in order to start. Um, but if I'm going to be honest with you, if you use a 9B and you have really, really fine control, you can also get extremely, extremely light lines all the way down to your solid blacks. I just don't have that kind of control. And it's really hard to actually gain that kind of control. So we have pencils, we have charcoals, um, you have all sorts of types depending on what you want. Vine charcoals are very, very soft. They're kind of crumbly. Compressed charcoals are harder. And again, the softer your material, the darker an output you're going to get from it. Mm, You can have all types of different graphite. You have your normal HB pencil. You can get graphite sticks for bolder, thicker lines. You can even use carpenter pencils. They're handy because they don't roll away. And they also come in a variety of hardnesses. There are other more specialty type of materials like Conti crayons, which are a midway between your charcoal and your pencils. They usually come in these very lovely brown and terracotta shades, but they're very hard to erase. Mm, But you can see here when you use them, uh, they have these sorts of lovely charcoal-like texture. Mm. It's really just a matter of experimentation and finding whichever um, material you like to use the best. Ballpoint pens are fantastic for drawing. Uh, you can get the gel pens, which have a more even line weight, meaning that they don't tend to change their shape when you're using them, right? If you have a certain type of pen, it just typically keeps that all the way through your line, whereas you can have different thickness and thinnesses when it comes to softer materials like pencils and pens and such. Are there any materials that anybody is particularly interested in exploring? Yeah, what's up?
So I'm really curious about things that are easier to take with you into a non-artsy setting and not walk
Mhm,
away with it all over your hands, but still have like the ability to draw with it. Like I'm using
mhm,
pastels right now, and I can usually wipe my hands on this, but I'm
mhm.
usually drawing to take notes. So it's like in the middle of a lecture and I need to like change my
Yeah.
colors. So it's a hard thing to kind of take into a lecture setting. Do you have any suggestions
Mhm.
on things to use, types of modalities for that?
Yeah. So what I've been actually pulling from is my travel case of just various items. I have one of these things to wipe my hands with in it, and
Hmm.
also can be used as a blending tool.
What do you
I
have,
have,
Mina? Mine's like a chamois.
uh,
Mine's like
it's a
from a
chamois.
car
It's,
washi chamois, but it sounds
yeah,
good. Okay.
yeah, exactly what it is. Those
Okay.
are excellent for blending, as well if you drag them over a softer material. Um, another, I cut mine down real small so that it's more
Hmm.
portable.
Hmm.
Uh,
How do you
and
wash it?
that's
How do you wash yours out afterwards? Just water?
just water. Yep, a
Okay.
little water and a little dish soap.
Oh,
Yeah,
you do
and
put
then you
soap
can
on
use
it
it.
sometimes. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, another good one is if you get a kneaded eraser, that's what this is. They're the stretchy erasers. They can be good at picking stuff up off of your fingers if you just play with it a little bit. Yeah.
Did you say a kneadable eraser? I think it's like a white one. It's not kneadable.
Mm-mm. No, so that's your standard polymer plastic eraser, right?
Hmm.
The kneadable erasers, they come in a little like they look like a little piece of gum,
Mm.
right? They usually come in a little square brick form. You can, sorry, my cat's in the way. You can mold them, stretch them. They are self-cleaning. You can tear them apart and put them back together again. See, they're really, really good at picking up like light things. Yeah, it's
What's
really,
the
really wild that they
what's
exist.
the kids' toy that's like that? Is that the same thing as the eraser, or are they slightly different? You know,
It's
the
not silly putty.
Silly Putty, that's one. I
It's
couldn't think of the name.
it's similar. It's a very, very similar texture to silly putty though.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately you can't use silly putty. I did try once. Yeah. Those are really good. I usually just I have my chamois. I usually have some wet wipes in my little carrying
Yeah,
case.
need to have that.
I think that this was a flashcard case that I got on sale. So I just stick all of my most used items into it, a little bit of wet wipes, some of my hand things, and then I can carry it with me whenever, wherever I want to or need to doodle.
Mm,
Typically, when I'm going out, though, I will stick mostly with charcoal or pencil
mm,
just to prevent me from getting smudges all over. And charcoal actually also comes in a very nice pencil form.
okay.
I think that you can also get pastels in pencil form with the wood on it in
Oh,
order to prevent it from just getting all over your hands when you're out and about.
on pastels, it seems like there's also a range of hardnesses that I don't quite understand. Like this one is
Mhm.
oil pastels and is very soft, but I'm pretty sure these are also pastels and they're like quite hard little
Hmm.
rectangles.
So, when it comes to pastels, these are chalk pastels, which are different than oil pastels. So, what that comes down to primarily is the binder that is used in keeping the pigment together. I think that
Mm,
this might, from the color of the box, I think that this might be the same brand, just a different type. So, chalk pastels, they are quite messy, but uh, they don't have some of the caveats that oil pastels do. For one, oil pastels can be toxic because of the oil binder
mm.
and some of the pigments.
Like
Um,
toxic if I
chalk
eat them,
pastels,
toxic if Silas eats them,
yeah,
toxic if on topical. What kind of toxic?
not on topical. On topical, they should be perfectly safe. I think that it's mostly if you eat them or if you, say, shove them into any mucous membranes, like up your nose, or that sort of thing. I wouldn't give them to a child. Um, yes. So chalk pastels are basically just like grown-up sidewalk chalk. They come in more colors. In fact, a lot of chalk artists do use chalk soft pastels in order to do their work outside.
Mm,
uh, on the ground. So it's quite nice. Um, there is an advantage to using oil pastels, and that is that they are oil soluble. So you can sort of, now I haven't tried this myself, but I do know that other people have. You can sort of use oil paint binder in order to thin them out and blend them, unlike with chalk pastels, which you mostly just, you rub them together, they mix
mhm,
colors.
mhm.
Which is also the same case for oil pastels. But if you want a different type of effect, you can try something like that. And it only takes very, very little. And
Mm,
it's usually applied with a paintbrush or a Q-tip,
mm.
if in that case. Um, right. Any other questions on materials? Yes.
I am very curious about watercolors because I cannot figure out how
Mhm.
to work with them at all. Apparently, just no color comes out. I put it in the paint and I put it on the paper and there's no color. And I don't understand. It's supposed to be for
Yeah.
kids. And somehow that doesn't work for me. What am I doing wrong?
So, what kind of watercolors are you using? Are you using ones from the tube or in the tray?
In the tray.
Okay, in the tray. Those have less pigment than the ones that come in the tube. It
Mm,
is, again, a matter of what you use to bind it with.
mm,
So that means that the ones in the tray usually require a lot more water to get started. You mix them up there. You sometimes have to like really get your brush in there
mm.
um, in order to actually get the pigment onto the bristles.
Mm.
So if you're
Okay.
struggling with that, I do suggest perhaps trying out the tube kind. Um, those come pre-moistened in the tube,
Mm.
and you can change the intensity of the color by adding water. I mean, if you add water, it's less intense.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Um, there's also paper types. As we said, you can always mark make using your typical lined paper or computer paper. Those are very smooth, very nice to feel. You have the sketchbook paper that I've been showing you examples on. Uh, if you look at if you ever see something that says paper tooth on it, that means that's how rough the paper is. And the rougher the paper is, the harder you have to press on it in order to get your pigment deeper into the paper fibers, right? So if you have something like a computer paper that's very low tooth, it'll be very light. Or you can have something like this. I don't know if you can see the edges. See how rough the edges are? This is a homemade paper that's stained with tea. It will have, I'm going to just take this, a totally different texture to it. It's harder to, let me get a different pencil, a darker one. So,
Hi,
I'm not
Amalia.
sure if this will show up. Hi, Amalia. I'm not sure if this will show up, but in comparison to the other one, you can see the fibers of the paper and
Hmm.
how that's showing up in there. You're not going to get those different separated fibers if you use a smoother paper.
Mm.
Yeah. And sometimes that's desirable and sometimes it's not. It's just depending on how you feel about it, what you like about it.
And also the feel of interacting with it, right? Meaning like, yes, what comes out is different, but
Mhm.
also as you're putting it
Yeah.
on is different. Why would you pick one personally versus the other? What would you use one for?
Um, I typically, if I'm going to go for something that has a lot of texture naturally, if I'm looking for something that's like bold, chunky, that sort of thing, I would go for a rougher paper.
Mm,
If I'm looking for something that has a greater degree of fine detail, then I would probably choose a smoother paper,
mm. What if you're
just because
angry
it's easier to
versus
achieve.
happy?
If you're
Would you
angry,
would you choose different papers based on that? Tammy, why are you laughing at that?
no, it's a good question. It's a really
See,
good
Mina
question.
likes my question.
It's something I think that would pertain to the individual.
Mm.
I don't actually tend to draw when I'm angry. I
Oh.
find that it totally disturbs my experience, but it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody.
Okay. I really enjoy giving a pet parent who's kind of feeling a lot of big emotions something to do with their hands while we're in an
Mhm.
appointment, like a coloring book or a piece of paper to like write notes on. Do you have any suggestions from are we going to talk about color theory and or paper? Like what would be the ideal thing for me to put in the hands of a pet parent? If you could just dream whatever you wanted to, what would you
You
make?
know, I think that coloring pages to choose from is a really, really good idea. Most people, when they approach the idea of sort of using art to emotionally regulate, aren't necessarily prepared to do so in a situation that is outside their own home. If you know
Hmm,
what I mean.
sure.
Um, I've heard some people object, but I don't think that giving them the option is necessarily a bad thing at all. Um, using crayons or colored pencils, everybody knows how most people know how those feel in their own hands,
Hmm,
right? They're colorful as well. You don't have to match your colors to the preformed lines. And
hmm,
for people who feel like perhaps they have a harder start than others to accessing their own mental creativity, it can be it can take some of that pressure off to
hmm.
have lines to color in.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that that's a good idea. Yeah.
I like that. Another
Yeah.
question that came into my head there was if a child or any aged human says, "Look at this amazing drawing I did." And you're like,
Hmm.
I don't know what to say, but amazing would probably not be in my word choice. How can you be positively encouraging for what that, like, do you have a suggestion on how to, the best thing to give in that situation?
Yeah, I think that honestly, what I do in those situations, because I have a couple of young uh, nieces and nephews,
Exactly. Yeah.
is usually what I say is, wow, you worked really hard on that. Can you tell me
Mm,
about it?
yes, I love that. Okay. That's
And
perfect.
instead of assuming what they're trying to draw, because
Yes.
representationally, it's you don't know
Yeah,
most of the time,
totally.
you know? Yeah,
I like it.
exactly.
Perfect. Thank
So
you.
the heart of the matter is that creative mark making is a rather personal thing. Um, but there are always ways that we can use in order to sort of let go of the mind and let the body direct what kinds of marks you're making without overthinking it, right? There are some, we call them warm-up exercises that you can do. When I start and I sit down and I want to draw, sometimes I find myself coming up against this block that's like, well, what am I doing here? What thing am I making? And that's not always conducive because maybe I don't want to make a specific thing. I just want to make something. Um, so when it comes to creative mark making, you what I always do is starting with a series of warm-up exercises that can be done at any skill level. It trains the eye in order to be able to um, ascertain what you like and what you don't like through experimentation. It trains your fine motor controls in order to perhaps be able to more accurately put down lines in ways that you might want to use for more representational or purposeful projects in the future as well. Um, yeah, so the first one is just your straight hatching. To do is, I'm just going to do a little bit of example here, is you connect straight lines in all sorts of different directions. Something like so. Call this hatching. And whenever it crosses over, like right in these areas, camera in these areas, and it's going in all sorts of different directions, it's cross-hatching. Um, I like to make all sorts of circles, big ones, small ones, connect them, try to connect them uh, rapidly. The goal is not perfection. It's just a way to ease your mind. I don't know if anybody has trypophobia. I'm so sorry. Uh, um, like so. You can always do all of
I don't know.
these
Do we know if we
circles.
haven't? What is that? What is
Trypophobia
trichophobia?
is it's the fear of clustered holes.
Of what?
Um, Clustered holes.
What is
Yeah,
this?
like
Can you write the word in the chat?
it's trypophobia. It's yeah. I have a couple of friends with it, so it's like oh. Um, Another one that I like to do is the bean shapes. Just like a whole lot of wiggly ones. You extend your circles. I'm not as good at this one as I am the circles, which means that I need to do it more. You know, you cluster them up, you vary them, you make sure that you scatter them all over. There is something that we call point targeting, which if you see this very, very small circle right here, you, I'm going to try and do this in the camera. It's when you try to draw all of your lines just, oh, that was a bad one. No, we don't talk like that. Here, let me, is when you draw your line up from behind to the dot and you make it in a sort of radial pattern. This helps you sort of um, space things out. It makes things space things out. It helps you end where you intentionally end, where you want to intentionally end, that sort of thing. And you just make them radially, meaning just all around it, cluster them together, make them far apart. Looks kind of like a dandelion or a sunburst. Um, Another one that I enjoy doing is textures. So if you want to make yourself a little four square grid like this, you can fill it in. Sorry, my camera's so bad. You can fill it in with all sorts of textures. You can make it scrumbly if you want. That's always a good one. You can do the circular thing as well. If you make it very small, it looks like pebbly, like you can touch it, maybe. It looks rougher like that. I like making fish scales, like so. And all of these lend very well actually to mandala design. Mandalas are a really, really excellent way to meditate, I find. if you just want to make some marks. So I'm going to use my cup because just a normal drinking glass. I'm going to make a circle. If you can take a ruler, bisect it, quarter it, like so. And then drawing through that middle, you can make further divisions. They don't have to be perfect, nothing does. Like so. Then you can do different designs in every slice of this circle that we've created. You can make a continuous design if you want. You can hmm, uh, carefully draw your circles as a guideline. Make the circle smaller or larger around these guidelines if you'd want. Let's see. I like making these tombstone-esque flower petal shapes. You can do such a thing as that. You can fill them with dots and circles and hatched lines. You can partition them out even further to make them more delicate and lace-like if you want. See, if I do like so.
Mina, what is the
You can make
definition
them,
of a mandala? Is it that it's a repetitive pattern? Is it that it's a circle? Is it that it's something meditative?
if I'm to describe my understanding, is that they are a complex pattern that is typically repeating. It can You can make repeating patterns of all types. You can have them jagged. Houndstooth would not be a mandala, but it is a repeating pattern that is not circular. Um, Typically, mandalas represent wholeness and wellness in the world. They are very much used for meditation purposes, especially because the smaller and more complex you make them, the the I should say it is both at once easier and harder to focus the attention on very, very small, complex things. If you start out large, like I have begun to do, and then slowly focus out down on the smaller and smaller details in your repeating pattern, then it becomes sort of a way to draw yourself in and focus on the smaller and smaller aspects of it. Course. And I should say, if it frustrates you, then perhaps it is time to step away from such a thing, and you can always pick it up later. There is also an aspect of drawing, I think, that is frustration tolerance. And I think that drawing mandalas does help a little bit with developing this sort of frustration tolerance that you may experience when things aren't coming out precisely the way that you want them to. So yeah, you can create all sorts of things using just these first few exercises. And there are always more exercises that you can find. Sometimes ones that I thought, wow, why did that not occur to me earlier? I do enjoy drawing spirals over and over and over, trying to tighten them up, trying to keep them loose. That always helps me with my wrist movements. Uh, and I would say keeping the lines together as close as possible also helps me to it helps me focus in a way that is rather relaxing for me. It I think that people are naturally drawn to certain kinds of shapes all on their own. You know? And if you're mark making for relaxation, we really want you to try to lean into whatever motions that feel right for you visually and also physically for the way that your arm, your shoulder, your wrist might want to move. I really enjoy encouraging creativity in people. Um, just knowing these kinds of exercises are a helpful tool for when you want to use them. And they can always be used or set aside as you feel that you would like to use them. Um, Art is really something that has no rules. Uh, and each definition for everybody is very personal, and every culture has a different background with which they approach. I really encourage when you're embarking on a creative endeavor to look at things that you find personally inspiring to you. This could be photographs, it could be other artists, it could be watching a movie that you really like the colors of. I know that I'm particularly drawn to certain colors, and if I am not able to use those in my work, then I lose interest in my work. Um, which means that I often draw some very strangely colored things. But again, it has no rules. It's for you. It's for you to use as your tool for your personal well-being and satisfaction. Um, when it comes to creative mark making, it does not matter about skill. Skill is not skill is not necessary for simply putting a pencil to paper and for exploring what feels good for you to make. It really, there's no lower bar, there's no high bar. For example, man, don't you ever want to recapture the feeling of being 3 years old with a crayon clenched in your fist and just breaking it over a pencil over and over and over again? Sometimes I do. And sometimes, that's what you got to do. All right. That thought has finished. How can I help you?
I love this so much, Mina. You're doing such a brilliant job. Mine are some kind of questions that you can take or pass on. I am really interested in color theory. If you're going to touch on that at all, I think find that fascinating. I'm curious also if you have any experience with drawing as a group activity, sort of similar to someone starts a story and the next person adds on another piece of the story and another piece of the story. Do you know what I mean in the verbal game? Um,
Yeah.
and I've participated in sort of a group drawing exercise. So you're adding on, I think, I don't know, I remember if there were rules, like add 3 marks somewhere. And then you kind of also contributed your story to the shape that was forming. So that's the second one. And then third, I'm curious if there are any examples of mark making in animals, in non-humans that are interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Any,
So for the first one was color theory. Color theory is a thing that college courses will teach class after class after class about. It's one of those things where certain colors can have personal meaning to you. It can have cultural meaning to other places. Um, and it can have general meaning in other senses. Like, for example, in China, the color red is very lucky. In Japan, white white clothes typically often indicate some sort of mourning status, but again, also so does black. It really depends. In Western cultures, we have this sort of idea that red is vibrant, life energy type color. It can also be very angry or dominating over things. Um, and that yellow tends to typically, when we look at, say, art history, tends to denote spirituality and such. We see blue as very calming and green as very restful for the eyes, but that is not color theory is not only color meaning, it's also how you juxtapose it against other colors in the setting. It's also hue and saturation. For example, red, uh, when desaturated into grayer colors, it gives you a very different internal feeling than, say, bright, bold, just from the tube RGB red, right? Um, I have a book, but it's only about realist paintings. Um, if you want to know more about it in a technical sense rather than a personal meaning sense, I recommend Color and Light for the Realist Painter by James
Mm.
Gurney. He is a fantastic realist painter who this book is rather like a textbook in that it breaks down many, many methods of attempting to use color in order to express what point you may be making with your it, he's a painter, but you can use it for any medium. Um, in regards to the second one, group activities. Yeah, drawing activities in a group are very common. They're very fun as well. You can use them as a form of bonding. My classes and I used to perform a game called The Exquisite Corpse, where you take a paper, you fold it into thirds, and making sure that each third is hidden from the previous person, and you create a creature or a monster. Somebody has the head, the torso, and then the legs. You get as wild with it as you can. You don't know what's going to come out the other side. It's usually pretty funny when you get a whole bunch of people together to make an entirely new animal that nobody knows what it's going to look like. Uh, I like the idea that um, of your experience where people are making marks and telling their stories along with that. I think that that's a really, really fantastic way to get to know people as well. And also a lower stakes thing than having to make something recognizable as a creature in the end. As for mark making animals, there are elephants in sanctuaries who paint. Um, Although it's difficult for me to say whether or not they've been trained to do it or whether they engage with it naturally. I don't know. Somebody I know has a peacock who who gets very, very excited when the person who takes care of her brings out the paints and papers in order for
Oh.
her to get her feet wet in and then walk all over the papers, the peacock paintings. Um, I have not yet encountered a cat or dog who enjoys it very much, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Building, I love the peacock story. And thank you for your answers on all of this. I wonder where like a bear scratching a tree comes in. Um,
Mhm.
like a very obvious leaving a mark if that's not
Yeah.
similar enough. And then I also think about Silas and his cat pee marking skills, which we do know has like ethology behind it and where he does it. But he's very artistic about it. Like it definitely has to do with wind direction and what it was marked there before, but he spends a lot of time assessing what's there, examining his own mark, reapplying his own mark, and I just find that fascinating as well. What are your thoughts
You
on it?
know, I haven't necessarily thought of territorial type markings as creative output before. That's a very interesting um, way to think about it to me. I think that the difference between this and the sort of visual art that we're doing here is not, well, I can't even say that it's not a product of our bodies because it's an output from our hands. Um, that's something that I'll have to think about quite a lot, I think, in the future. It's also that there is a probable, possible difference in intention. You know, I like to think, and this is just a personal belief of mine that I I'm fully able to like turn around on, is that human art is something that takes largely intention. If that intention is relaxation, that's still an intention. A bear scratching a tree is also has an intent. That intent is to show territory, to necessarily perhaps warn something, perhaps remove something from the clause. There could be a lot of different reasons behind it. But the difference between human intention and perhaps the bear's intention is that a human intends to create art, and that is art. A bear may not have that sort of conception of art as a thing that exists. I think maybe the difference here. Not saying that they're any less intelligent, because of course they are extremely intelligent animals. The difference between the human uh, mindset around it and the bear's mindset around it would be different just by nature of human society and the bear's knowledge of their own world.
Mm.
That's, I think that that's where I'm coming around to. All right. I think that we've come to the end of what I have. So thank you very much for coming to me. And I hope that what I've said can be useful if ever anybody feels like just attempting to express themselves.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mina.
Thank you.
I love having all of the Minds Blurred, the exercises. Those were really fun, and I can imagine utilizing those in some interesting context, particularly for the focusing, especially if a room's really loud or I'm very angry. Like
Hmm.
being able to just have a point of focus
Yeah.
and a moment of you're doing a thing while you're kind of finding yourself in space. Like that seems really, 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 really valuable, and so fascinating. Thanks for chatting about all the different topics that got thrown in. Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mina. I absolutely loved that. It's funny because I didn't know it was mark making, but when I'm on the phone, especially if I know I'm going into a intense conversation with a client or um, I'm doing that all the time. I always have a pen in my hand. I'm always like the line. I tend to do lines more
Yeah.
than anything, and I'm the cross hatching, and that's as I'm having the conversation. That's my calming tool. So I didn't know
Yeah,
it was actually a thing.
it is. It is totally a thing. Yes.
But
There are all sorts of terms for almost any mark that you can possibly put down on paper. You just have to find them. Amalia.
Thank you so much. I have a family full of very artistic people. My kids are incredibly artistic. They did not get it from me because they're adopted. Um, my mother is incredibly artistic. She just sent something um, to one of the kids that she drew, and I did not get that DNA at all from anybody. Yeah, my mom just did this with some pens, just super quick.
Wow.
Very
And
awesome.
I know,
Yeah.
it's so cute and pretty. I put them in a frame every time she sends it. She sends one for every kid's birthday.
Yeah.
But I bought a adult coloring book. I don't know, probably 2 summers ago.
Mhm.
And I think I used it in Alaska last year, maybe for 1 or 2 times before I got too busy. But I'm going to dig it out tonight because something that you said about meditation, I love meditation,
Mhm.
different forms of meditation. So if I think of it more like meditation rather than this skill set that I don't really do well,
Mhm.
then I think that'll be a good way to reframe it in my mind because I do like to put ink or crayon or color. I love color down on
Yeah.
paper.
I
So
mean,
thank you. That kind of like ignited a little like, oh, I could do that.
yeah, here, I actually have some pieces that I've done just in general, trying to meditate, think through things. Hmm, right here. Because I have the training to be a representational artist. I took my bachelor's degree is in illustration.
Wow.
Um, but I always have had the thought that anybody can draw, anybody can make art. They just need to think about it themselves. So this is one of my non-representational pieces.
Nice. Love the colors.
Yes, I love this teal color. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So I use it over and over and over again. I also love this pink.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, and if you put something on canvas, then
yeah.
it's kind of like I'm an
It
artist.
it
It's on canvas.
feels like art, but it's not necessarily. It's just me trying to figure out what I'm doing with myself. I
Hmm.
often paint or draw when I'm anxious or afraid. It helps me calm down. You can, this is a piece I did on just a little piece of cardboard cut out from the back of a cereal box. Like I said, you can use anything,
Nice.
absolutely anything. And I do also representational
Oh,
and
wow. Look at that.
landscapes as well. So,
That is beautiful.
yeah. So, like I said,
100%.
these are transferable skills.
If you could transfer some of your skills over here, that would be awesome.
I think that sometimes you're welcome to them. Sometimes they frustrate me. I get very frustrated with art when I'm trying to do representational things. Right, right, great.
Tanya, did you have a
Yeah,
question?
hey, Tanya.
Yeah, no, thank you. This has been so great. As you know, I have a fine art, Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts,
Yeah,
and all my tools, as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, they're all packed away upstairs. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get that out because, like you, I love painting. I do a lot with acrylics.
hmm
That's my medium of choice, a mixed media.
yeah,
So now I'm thinking, it's nice weather. Maybe I'll bring it out to my deck and at night
yeah.
sit because I have so many beautiful vistas here.
Mhm.
And I was never very good.
You don't have to
But
be.
no, I mean everyone in my class was like artists, but I like to just play and I have my own shtick, so to speak.
Yeah,
So saying to all of you, it's like I may have a fine arts degree. I wasn't that great compared to everyone else, but I have my own thing that I like,
yeah,
and that's what matters.
yeah. And I would say the only thing that really matters when you're doing these things is that you're doing it for you. I find that the idea of art for a lot of people these is that it is so when I went to art school, I spent about a decade getting my degree because I dropped in and out of college. Um, Mostly because every time I went back, I was really, really disheartened by how commercialized the entire process was. I deeply resented, I would say, the idea that I had to make myself palatable. I had to make my creativity less me in order to be a viable artist. And that it actually made me stop doing art for several years, and I felt a hole in me when I wasn't doing anything creative. And the idea of making something that is more you than anything else is when it comes from your own hands, when it comes from your emotions, representationally or not. Yes.
I just, because you brought this up, it's like one of the things I like painting. Well, this is a watercolor that I did like a long time ago, but it was my cat. So
Aw,
watercolor.
yes, that's very good.
So I figured out that for me, I'm better at drawing what's right in front of me, like stroke by stroke.
Mhm,
So from a photo of my cat.
mhm. Yeah.
So
Amazing, Tanya. That was beautiful.
There are all kinds of ways that you can approach your creativity. You can always reference photos. You can try making something from your memory and leaning into it. Uh, I do like how Bob Ross says that there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily 100% true all the time, depending on your goals. I think that that's true here when you're just trying to create something from the heart.
Love this so much, and thank you for that the last share about coming in and out of art school, like making yourself palatable, just that internal conflict of why am I doing this? And I can just imagine that more so because you are in school for it. But like Amalia, your comment about I'm so bad about this, my mom is better, my kids are better, there's so much heavy language around I'm really bad about this, and I'm always curious about it because, like, what is this? And it feels like it ties really closely to your comment just there, Mina, of like making something that's art so that someone else thinks that it's art versus what you're talking about today of just making a mark because of your internal landscape or something that you want to do.
Yeah.
So one, I think that's such a big topic for us to talk about as a community now and many, many times in the future. Like why are you doing it? Is it for somebody else to see? Or do you want anyone else to see it? Do they have the right to comment on it? That one's also big for me. Like if I'm
That's
sort
a
of
big one.
taking notes in colors and someone comments on it, I have now toned myself down to say thank you. Go mind your own business.
Yeah.
I usually just end with thank you. But I'm often really upset that they thought they could look. And I don't really know how to do that differently than sit in the back of the corner and like hide it. But I'm always curious about why it seems like it's for inspection. And I'm curious if anyone has thoughts on that. And then I wanted to share, I'm going to put this in the chat. These are more high profile examples of animal created art. And the same
Ah,
topic comes
yes.
up in sort of this piece is it's humans interpreting the art. So it's like it's art if the
Mhm,
animal made it and we appreciate beauty in it, or somehow that like speaks to me, like the one about the little
mhm.
monkey. I can absolutely imagine a primate making marks and enjoying it just from kind of how their brain is wired. But like the fact that you think it's art or that this monkey made art so you could like it. Like I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that. And the other one I included
Yeah.
are like mating rituals, and so many examples of a nest being built that looks in a certain way or that attracts the
Yes.
female of the species or does something functional. And that makes me think of sculptures as artistic expressions in humans. Like, who is it for? And then it brings me back to Silas, and I'm like, who are you peeing on that bush for? And why does it have that
Yeah.
particular like little curly cue at the end? And it makes me think about calligraphy and all those pieces. So I'm just curious if anyone has reflections on that as like a bigger topic, who art's for and whether we are making it for someone else to digest. Tanya, what's your comments on that?
Well, something that comes to mind is beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And you can look at some famous $1 million pieces and it's a white canvas with a red dot in the middle,
Yeah.
right? And you look at it and think, really?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my closing point. It's like it's up to the person, and I think art has gone into a realm of, from art history is something completely different, but now it's a lot of it is about I don't know how to put this. It's like oh, this is this person and they are this person, and there's a lot of, it's not really about the art, it's about the person and status, or I don't quite know how to explain it, but
I think in some areas, yes, but there will always be people out there pursuing creativity for creativity's sake.
hmm,
I think that art is something that is very subjective to everybody. There's no one answer as to what art is or is not. If you asked me what art is, I could only give you my opinion of it. And I respect everybody else's opinions on it too, because, it's even if it's not to my taste, even if I might consider it a different way, it's always valuable to think about what other forms of art there are and what somebody else's definition of the term might be. The commercialization aspect of it has always been there, I would say, from the Sistine Chapel all the way up and before, all the way up to now.
yeah, but
It's
they
one
have
of
to be
those
dead
things.
to be famous.
Yes.
It's like,
Lynette, hi, I see you've had your hand up for a
Hi.
bit.
So this has just been an absolutely beautiful discussion, and I really appreciate everything you shared and everything that I've learned this evening. And I realize I really like drawing fish with feet. I don't know why, but
Hey.
I was drawing fish with feet. But one of the things that is well, there's a couple things that are striking to me. One is, as you've been talking about creativity and allowing it to flow and allowing it to be for the individual who's creating it, has made me think about why I've always struggled with my own creativity in art,
Mhm.
because as a young child I was um I was only praised when I colored in the lines.
Yeah.
And that, I think, and I almost use that, I mean, that is true, and it was also a metaphor for how I was raised. Everything had to be in the lines that society said this is how it needs to be.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's probably held me back in a lot of ways, not just in my willingness to put pen to paper, but in many ways. So anyhow, it was just interesting hearing that. And then I was reflecting on Kasara's comment about um, people commenting on something that they see. And I see two sides to that. I can see the comment of, wait, I'm doing this for me, mind your own business. But I can also see it as the observer and thinking, oh, you just brought joy. I glanced over and I see this and I'm curious. I'm not curious in a negative way. I'm curious because this is beautiful or different or interesting, or I want to learn about. And so anyhow, I was just kind of thinking about the two sides of that. That's all I've got. But thank you so much.
I would say that there's actually a book that I've been reading recently that touches on a lot of the things that you just mentioned. It's called Trust the Process, An Artist's Guide to Letting Go.
Hmm.
It follows visual arts and music performance arts. It's about trusting natural movements in yourself and your impulses and ideas. I haven't gotten all the way through it, but like with many philosophy and self-help books, it's a matter of taking what means something to you and letting the rest go.
You, Amalia.
Amalia.
I think humans are just curious by nature. And I think that when we see something, like Lynette said, it's different. It's just not black and white. It's color. Like literally, people want that experience too. Like, ooh, what are you doing? Like, and how do you do that? What's in red? What gets blue? What gets purple? I mean, I I think it's really cool. And I could see myself, I could see myself like, what you got over there? What you doing? Um, People are just curious, and I don't think it, you know, and if it comes from a place of judgment, then that's obviously just a reflection of what they have in them. But I think for the most part, it's like, oh, she's doing something cool, or what's the system? What's the coloring system, or is it just random? It's kind of fun. I don't know. I think it's cool. It's a lot to think about in this class. Thank you so much. It's been
Yeah.
really, really fun.
Just go and make random marks on paper in public. And so people inquire about it so that you don't worry about what they say versus not. And it like is literally to just I'm hoping to stimulate your curiosity. Being the answer.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think where I could go where I'm just where someone would see me, but I could definitely just sit at the table with my kids because
I think you
they
should do
are
that.
they are all the artists, right, in the house, and they're really, really good.
I bet it
Um,
would make them bring their own supplies out and just like I feel like that's kind of part of what you were suggesting there, like being curious, but then
Yeah.
you're thinking about it, well, could I make that mark? I wonder what it would look like if I did it, like that positive culture setting without actually saying
Yep.
anything. It'd be fun.
I'm I'm somebody who brings my sketchbook with me everywhere.
Nice.
Everywhere. Restaurants, parks, walks, the airport. And I will say, I am more often on the side of getting inquiries about what I'm doing when I don't necessarily want to be observed, but I usually have to stop, say, well, I am in a public place. Thank you guys so much for talking with me and for being here. I really, really enjoyed sort of just going through and going with the flow.
This was
Thank you.
amazing. Well done, Mina. Round of emojis. We love you so much. Thanks for sharing with us. It can be as difficult to talk about your art to others, just to talk about the topic. So thanks for sharing it with us and trusting us with
Yes.
the subject. As we close, we have a second video from Amalia that we are going to watch. I don't know what this video includes, but I'm excited to watch it. So just kind of sit and digest and maybe make some marks as we're thinking through all this together. And thank you all for being here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Amalia, do you want anything to say as an intro before I?
Yeah, I'll give it a little intro. This
Okay.
is the somatic tools video where I am briefly showing a little bit of breath work to help down regulate the nervous system, an acupressure point two actually, and talking about having an object something either on your lanyard or a stone in your pocket. So somatic tools for helping be aware of and take care of your nervous system so that you can continue on caregiving in the moment when you might not have time to stop, but also to care for your nervous system in micro ways so that we don't get so burnt out before we can stop and do a big reset.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm so excited to watch and make some marks at the same time. All right, here we go. What? Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Amalia, I'm blown away. Okay, I'm gonna let other people make their comments first. I'm just so full of proud of you. That was so great. Any comments?
Thank you.
I think it's funny that you started with, oh, it's a long one, 13 minutes. Okay, that did not feel like 13 minutes. So just so you know, that did not feel like 13 minutes at all.
Okay,
That
good.
went by very fast. Like yeah, that was fantastic.
Okay, good. Not too long. Okay, great.
No, not at all.
And how about Binks? He's so cute.
Oh my God,
He's
he's
so
gorgeous.
cute.
Do you remember years ago, Dr. Casara, when an animal of mine would do a thing and I'd be like, oh, and I'd have to start over. Now I'm like, come in, go out, make noise. Oh my goodness.
Dr. Andre?
Yes, that was gonna be in my comments as well, but I'm gonna widen it to your ability to connect with your audience with that is so beautiful and gorgeous and healing in and of itself. I think that it's a beautiful video all over. The editing you already have, your writing is spectacular. But really personifying that, like, we're doing it together. I put my hands in my scrub pocket, like, I don't know where my stickers went. Like, it has such a beautiful humor with this really important connection of like, yep, it did not go like I planned, and now I'm gonna put this on my wrist. Chelsea, I don't know if you can see my tinier stickers. I have some on mine, but your connection, your humanity in a positive way versus usually how we use that, includes things like being like, well, there he goes. I'm sure your cat's doing the exact same thing. Let's keep going. So great. So great. Lynette.
So, so I not having seen how this went for you a few years ago, it was so seamless. It was just a part of the script, and it didn't feel distracting at all. It felt just joyful. But also, and we said this about your earlier video, and I want to reiterate it here. Your pace is perfect. It's how you are talking and your inflecting is just perfect. And so I agree that went by super fast. I feel more relaxed, which I needed after a day of sitting in front of a computer so, and not getting enough time to walk outside. So thank you very much. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. This is going to be 5 videos that are going to be for the World Congress coming up. Will also serve as kind of, I guess it's called a lead magnet for people at the conference that I'm going to get interested in other services that I am offering. But it's just really hard to do. I get so excited about tools. I could have done 1 breath pattern, but I was like, I want to do 3. But what if somebody wants to do it, when they're talking to someone? We've got to do it stealth. We have to do it stealth mode.
How much you're enjoying it shines through, Amalia, and it absolutely lends it to collegiality, but also your professionalism of knowing your topic, and that trust and that confidence of someone to follow you in it is so exceptional. And I would like to suggest that this is very much a legitimate art form, and I think this is a beautiful, beautiful creation. and how much you're enjoying it. So all the things we talked about today, art for whatever's sake, art for your sake, art for someone else's sake. I mean, I can't think of a better definition, even though it's not on paper. Thank you, everyone. What an amazing night. Amalia, thank you. Mina, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see y'all later.